and speaking of shortcomings, Denver came up short last night in Game 2 of the NBA Finals. A game that after the first, I thought Miami dominated about the first 5 minutes of the game and the last 5 minutes of the game. In between that, I thought Denver had control for most of it. And in the end, the undrafted guys for Miami, the Strauss, Gabe Vincent,
Duncan Robinson,
the Caleb, Duncan Robinson, Caleb,
Caleb Martin.
who's I can't, Caleb Martin. And Caleb didn't even start, but Kevin Love came off the bench or started in his place and hit a couple of big threes. And defensively, Jokic scored 41 points, but they did a good job of not letting anybody else really score. Like similar, kind of what happened in Game 1. I think the big thing going forward in this game is, for one, the Heat. There's still things to look forward to. Bam is having a much better NBA Finals than he was Eastern Conference Finals. Jimmy Butler has not played great in the finals. He had some big shots down the stretch. Maybe that gives him some confidence going into Game 3. And then Miami, the other part of it too is, they shut the lights out last night. I think the biggest question for Miami right now is, can they win a game when they aren't hitting threes at the clip they were? Because I think Denver can win without shooting, living and dying by the three. I don't know if Miami can't, because we haven't seen it these playoffs.
Well, and Dylan, it was a tale of two games. Look at Game 1. Strus went 0 for 10 from the field. Vincent wasn't being him. Kevin Love didn't even play. Duncan Robinson's been so up and down on these playoffs, and he got benched last year. And yesterday was it was a different game. But it was a Hall of Fame coach making Hall of Fame decisions, realizing that I need to get Kevin Love on the court. He's not going to light the box score up in terms of points, but just facilitating the ball around the court, getting these guys open shots early in the game and getting their confidence going, where they can say, hey, you know what? We can win this thing and we can play. But all credit to Miami too, because when Denver got up, 50-32, I thought it was over. I mean, with the way they've been playing, Jokic going for a triple-double in Game 1, and Jamal Murray hadn't gotten going in that game up to that point. When they got up by those 18 points, I was like, this is going to be tough sledding for Miami. But they fight, they scratched, they clawed their way back. They got it within, 7, 8 at halftime, and they just kind of hung around. And, Dylan, you're right. I think, Jokic went berserk last night, 28 or 26 in the third, 41 for the game, but he only had 3 assists. He wasn't getting other guys involved, and Denver's role players, they weren't hot like they were in Game 1, and Miami took advantage of that. And now Denver, for the first time maybe this playoff series, you could argue a little bit in the Phoenix series, has some adversity where they got to sit back and they got to say, maybe we need to make some changes because what we tried in Game 2 won't work. So let's see what Mike Malone and his staff can come up with in 3 days before heading down to South Beach.
Yeah, well, and Mike Malone said it in the post game locker room, is questioning the team's effort. That's not great when in the NBA Finals is having your coach question your effort in the game. And the other part too is you can't speak enough about Heat culture. And I know it's a cliche term, but I mean, you look at all the undrafted guys. Grant, like you said, Strus, 0 for 10 in Game 1, comes out, hits 4 threes in the first quarter. Gabe Vincent, 23 points, 4 or 6 from 3. Kyle Lowry, who's a shell of himself, but always finds himself making plays in big minutes. And Duncan Robinson, who's been very, as far as even just playing up and down and inconsistent. And, it'd be easy. Got paid a huge contract. It would be easy for him to say, oh, I want out of here. What's the point of me prepping, getting ready? But these guys are always ready for the moment and ready for when their number is called, and they deliver.
Well, and even and going to the fourth quarter last night, even when Denver had that big lead, Duncan Robinson gets Miami going with 10 early fourth quarter points. And a big point in that game, he went up, he went inside. I don't know if it was on Jokic or if it was Gordon who was trying to defend him. They hit him with a little contact. No foul was called, but the basket went in, and he looked towards the baseline, and he flexed on Denver. And I think that brought the juice for that Miami team. Like, hey, Duncan's feeling it. This Heat culture is a thing. We're going to play with confidence. We're going to be in your face. Him flexing on them dudes was just like, hey, I'm here. We're going to win this game. And that's kind of got what Jimmy going. And it got that team going, and they rallied in the fourth quarter there. And then after that, that also kind of amped up their defensive efforts in the fourth quarter where Denver just couldn't come back.
Yeah, and crazy Duncan Robinson story is after his senior year, the Michigan writers, they were kind of asking him what his plan was, and it was Brendan Quinn who said that it was talking about, I bet you talked about giving the NBA a shot, but I bet you got plenty of suitors lined up to looking for your services over in Europe. And I guess he looks at Brendan and goes, no, I'm going to be playing in the NBA. And sure enough, he did, and now he's hitting big shots and delivering big plays and huge moments for the Heat.
And Dylan, I read an article today that on paper his contract looks like a big contract, 5 years, $90 million. But a lot of that is incentive based, where he needs to reach a certain number of field goal attempts, percentages of games played, and everything else like that, where his contract almost looks like a paper tiger. It's not what it actually is. And for him being a bench player and a streaky shooter, when you're low in basketball, you're low. But when you're high, you're high. And he had to fight through that adversity with guys like, Jimmy and Bam and Coach Spoelstra, probably Alonzo Mourning and Pat Riley upstairs saying, keep playing, keep doing you, Duncan. We gave you this contract for a reason. You showed out. We know you can do this. Just keep doing it. You never know when your time's going to come. Tyler Hero's still out with that broken hand. And he delivered in game 2. If it wasn't for him, the Heat are down 0-2, and we're probably getting ready to crown Denver champs. But you know what? He stuck to it. And Dylan, like you said, Heat culture, people say it's cliche. No, it's not. I saw in a TV interview 4 years ago, Pat Riley was wearing a white T-shirt and black lettering. It said culture across the chest. That man's been in 19 NBA finals in his career as a coach, player, and executive.
25% of the NBA finals.
That's not a cliche. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. What Miami has, what Pat Riley has established, Eric Spoelstra over his time, it is what it is. And Miami's not going to go away. Hell, they could still lose this thing in 5. They could lose in 6. They could win in 7. I just know they're not going to go down without a fight. They're not going to fold like a wet paper sack like Boston did in Game 7.
Would this be the biggest upset ever?
In the finals? Ooh, probably of our lifetime.
What about,
I can't think
what about that 0-4 Pistons team beating the Lakers?
That one possibly,
that one would be up there.
I don't know. We'd have to look up numbers wise as far as like odds going into it, but I mean, an 8 seed winning the NBA Finals is, I mean that's that Denver or that Detroit team was pretty solid. Yeah. I mean they had Rip Hamilton, they had Tayshaun Prince, Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace.
Their coach.
I mean, there's 3 or Larry Brown. So they had a Hall of Fame coach. They had 3 or 4 Hall of Fame players on that team. So, and I don't know what they were seed wise going into the playoffs, but I mean, if we're going just by the fact that Miami is an 8 seed against the number 1 team in the NBA all season, yeah, I would probably say it's the biggest upset in the NBA
number
Finals.
1 team in the West, because I think Milwaukee and actually Boston were 1 and 2 in the NBA this year, if I'm not mistaken, Dylan. I believe so, because I think they said if Boston would have won Game 7, Denver would have had to have gone to the Garden for Game 1. I could be wrong, but I thought Milwaukee and Boston were 1 and 2 in the league.
Yes, yeah. So Boston was 57-25. Denver was 53-29. So,
but yeah, to your point, Denver was number 1 in the West through the whole year.
But they would beat literally the top 3 teams in the friggin' league.
Exactly.
Boom, boom,
exactly.
boom.
Yep.
Well, and the other argument too you could make is I think from the eye test, I think Denver has been the best team all year. Record wise, maybe not. I think part of it is Denver playing in the tough Western Conference, but and I think this is probably the best team that Miami's faced in the playoffs so far this year.
Yeah,
which isn't a knock on those other two, but
because even Milwaukee, Giannis hurts his back. Middleton's had a bad knee for a couple of years now. That team wasn't the. If you ask me, they weren't that complete. They were good because they played in a bad
they're
division.
like the Bulls in the under Thibodeau, I would say is the
that's
best, maybe the best
yeah,
analogy.
That's fair. A good regular season team, they're going to pile up some wins, but when you need them to win a title, you just can't trust them. And the only reason they won that title was because Kevin Durant wears a size 18 shoe, not a size 17. If he wore a size 17 shoe, that three goes in, and well, Milwaukee's not champs. I'm not going to say who would have won it that year, but it wasn't Milwaukee.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll see what happens in Game 3 and Game 4. Game 3 Wednesday, so it'll already be done before we record or after we record, and then Game 4 is Friday night, and we'll have a Game 5 Monday for sure, and we'll see if there's going to be a Game 6 or a Game 7. But that's enough NBA talk for today's episode.